feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Monday morning. It's December 1st, and it's been a while since we've done the show. It's been 3 games. So we've got a lot to talk about today. Thank you for being patient while I was out of town last week for Thanksgiving. I promised to try and make up for that this week. But specific to today's show, we're going to try and cover not only the Wolves win over San Antonio on Sunday night. I was at that game, but also cover the other 2 games that I missed last week against Boston and against Oklahoma City during Thanksgiving week. To get into all that, Jace was there. I've got Wolves beat writer Jace Frederick to join me. Let's go.
Hey, yeah.
All right, we are now joined by Jace to, I'm going to call it, recap the Wolves Thanksgiving week. Jace, how was your Thanksgiving week?
It was good. Yeah. Spent time with family and hung out and watched sports.
Target Center.
Yeah, a little time at Target Center, like it had a little bit of everything, and it was exactly what you want. How was yours?
It was good. It's weird, like, as people will probably be able to tell from how I podcast on this episode. I didn't watch the games like live, and which I don't do when I watch like other NBA games,
Right.
like watch them the next day. But it's funny when you're used to like just being at the game, watching it live, getting commentary from Jim and Grady or Allen or whatever, or you guys were sitting there. And it's funny. It's actually interesting to come into a game like totally cold, like the OKC game. I didn't read anything you guys did, didn't look at Twitter. I mean, I knew they lost. But yeah, it was just like a different experience rather than consuming it live. And I didn't take notes and stuff when I watched it, which was good. It's like, it's fine to find a mix in sometimes, but
The different perspective is good. Because I mean, a lot of times we all do this of like little details or something. For some reason, like all game, you just start like watching for these 2 things, where it's like sometimes maybe getting like a more global like view of the game is helpful.
Totally. Like we spent in like a media row, we all, you're turning around to talk to me or I'm talking to Britt or whatever. We're kind of like, I have no idea what you guys thought was interesting during that Celtics game because I wasn't there. I know what was interesting to me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of working through these things. It's not often, that we don't do a podcast over the course of 3 games. So I want to spend this episode just touching on the 3 games. We can kind of go in any order. We haven't done an episode since the loss against Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City on Wednesday. The buzzer beater by Ant, or not buzzer beater, the game winner by Ant game against Boston on Saturday, and then the comeback win against San Antonio on Sunday. I'd like to do it through the lens of Ant for this episode. So which of those 3 games intrigued you most from an Anthony Edwards standpoint? And let's go through there.
I mean, they all intrigued me in different ways. Takeaways in general. I don't know. Why don't you pick where to start on this? Because I really do have like different things from different games, but I don't like. I have like a line that I can draw through the first couple. But like just in terms of like actual performance, I mean, he scored the ball great in all of them. Shot the ball really well. I think he's doing a little bit better job, especially later in some of these games, like Boston and San Antonio. A couple of key spots where he got to the rim late, where he needed to when the opportunities presented themselves. But honestly, the biggest things that I took away were more like a little bit more off the court. But if you had something you want to talk about hoops wise, that's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe just start with the end of the Boston game, because I think that one is like very much the Anthony Edwards experience of like maybe something was a little funky, fumbly at the end of the 4th quarter, but his talent he used to overcome that and hit that shot over. Derek White with the game on the line there. Huge game for him in that game from a scoring standpoint. 39 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists. Was a -1 in the game. 7 of 13 from 2, 5 of 11 from 3 there. I don't know. I was watching that game like after the fact. Ant is like driving them in clutch time. The last 5 minutes of the game, and the Wolves it wasn't clutch time. They had probably an 8 to 10 point lead for most of that time. And it's this Ant thing where it's like, okay, great take, great bucket, needed this here, needed this there. and then it gets really close. And
a couple of those are like, ooh, that was a forced three. Oh, that was a forced
yeah.
three, you know, like.
So if I'm being honest, like, I don't even know what to make of all of this, because it would be wrong for me to be like, oh, well, he should have just passed that to Julius there, you know, or, oh, like he wasn't including his teammate. Because if they don't have him in that whole fourth quarter, or they don't have him for all of these games, I mean, this team is nowhere near enough scoring to be able to compete, even with these sort of mid teams in the league. But it kind of shows that this is great. That's a great stat line, but it's another example of like, if you can just kind of like chisel some of this stuff down, not make it kind of gray in the last minute or two. Now here you are. There you are. You are the fifth best player in the NBA. So it's just another example of, it's really close. It's very good. And it's not great, but he is great enough that he hits that shot there, and they win the game and save themselves from, you know, fumbling another game late. I don't know exactly what to make out of it, other than I think Ant has been very good, very powerful, not perfect.
Yeah, it's like it's this incredible picture with Amy, like there are just a couple warts on it. And it's like, okay, are you just gonna focus on those? And it's like, no. But what are you supposed to do every night? Am I supposed to be like, wow, incredible scoring by Ant? You know, like, yeah, that's what I expect from him. Like, it's like, what is your standard of him? Like, mine's pretty high because I've seen what he's done now 4 years, and I've seen how dominant he's been 4 years, and he's been an all NBA player 4 years. So it's just like, okay, now how do you keep going up? Like, what's the next step? What's the next step? And it's looking for that. And for me, it's not like, oh, can you go from 28 to 30 points a game? Like, I don't really care about that. Because I don't think that's like the next step for him or this team. I think it's like, okay, how do you eliminate these couple bad decisions here late? How do you become this player who, you know, in clutch time games, or just even just at pivotal moments, maybe when the other team's going on a run or whatever, like making the key play that wins your team the game, or gets your team back into it, or stems a tide, or whatever, so that it's like this team becomes more consistent and he becomes more consistent, and he takes that rise, like you said, up to that top 5 player range, where right now it's like, oh yeah, he's easily a top 10 player, but it's how do you turn it into the thing where it's like, oh, every time the Wolves were kind of poking at the Thunder on Wednesday night, Shea just had like this surge in him, but it was built off of Shea had been making the right play. And then he's like, okay, now I need to get to my spot and score multiple times to rebuild this lead. And then we'll go back to, oh, they're doubling me. Okay, we're going to go back, and my teammates will eventually start hitting some of these threes. That kind of stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, I do look at that last play where, and I want to get into why I liked what I liked about it after the fact, but you watch that last play and you can pull it up here. It's Ant, and he hits that 3 after fumbling the ball. Yes. But I think everybody, as you first watched it, is like, what is this play? And can you go back and pause it?
Yep.
Like they're right there. Like, it's Keita is on the double, like instantly. The second that Keita comes over, Julius is wide open. And what's interesting there is that that's exactly it's the exact same simple 2-man action they ran out of the inbounds that led to the Mike Conley 3. And Ant on that play passed it to Julius. And then Julius got it to Mike for a wide open 3. And then on this point here, with 20 seconds left, exact same thing happens. Like, it's a very quick hedge from Keita, and like you have like a second to have Julius wide open. Inevitably would probably get downhill there, either score or kick it out. And Ant froze and dribbled. And then he left himself in a tough spot. And that's where it's like, what play is this? Like, this offense sucks. Chris Finch, what a terrible play call. We don't even have an offense. It's like, no, the play is for him to give Julius the ball, and he doesn't. So now it looks terrible. Now it looks like there is no play because the advantage that was created from the action was not utilized. And that's when things bog down. I think that happens a fair amount. But then he has this incredible talent to make the shot, which always kind of covers it up. And it's like, okay, but like to ascend, you're probably making that pass, right? Like in that split decision. But what I liked was Ant after the game, when he was first asked about that shot, you know this, like we've talked to Ant for years. Like he'll be like, yeah, tough shot. I knew I could hit that shot, blah, blah, blah. I work on that shot all the time. But this time his first response was something that he didn't do right, or something that he realized in the moment was wrong. He's like, I should have passed to Julius. And that's not usually something that we hear of right after the game. Usually it's like, oh, I practice that all the time, blah, blah, blah. And then like 2 days later, he'll be like, I should have passed to Julius.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
Totally.
I think it's cool that in the moment he identified it of like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have made that pass there. And realizing that that's the right play. My instincts kind of took over there, but just the realization of, okay, here's what should have happened. It's obviously great I made the shot. I do trust myself to make that shot, but that's what I should do. That's growth in itself. And I think that maybe is like step one of working towards doing the right play all the time. Or at least enough times where it's like the opposing defense will respect that you will probably make the right play, which will free up you just going yourself more too, because they have to be like, if we do this, he's probably going to pass it.
See, that's the key point, man. And I think that light bulb in Ant's head has came on in the last year, that if I do the right play, I'm going to get it back and have an easier opportunity either later in this possession or the next one, or the next time we're in this spot. Like I do think he's stacking understanding in these spots. He's stacking understanding across the board. He's way better at navigating double teams, or when they put two on the ball at the top there. You think back to like 3-4 years ago, he didn't even really have the concept of like understanding that the corner guys get open if I get to this depth, because then the guy rotates over and the corner's open. I wouldn't grade Anthony Edwards as a extremely fast learner, but I think he's very much learned and very much is learning over the course of time. And I wonder if I'm even being like, it's not fast because it started so early, like we started putting him in these spots. We started being like, the Memphis series, he's not doing this here. It's like, and I don't like doing the thing of, he's 21, but like he was 21 and it did start early, and he didn't have like, it has taken him a while to stack some of these things and stack some of these learnings.
I think he was 20.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Memphis series.
Yeah, I think he was 20.
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly. So
yeah,
super young, whatever. And I find myself wondering that sometimes, because you talk about like reactions in the moment, and I'm here. I'm like, dude, pass to Julius, or the end of the OKC game, or plenty of other games over the course of this year or previous years. But I do bring myself back to like, if we were to just turn on a clutch time game from 3 years ago, we would go, Ant is a lot better in these spots right now. And then the ultimate question becomes like, how high does this progression get, and will it end up being exponential at some point, because he's learned how to manipulate these things and be like, I actually want to get the ball to Julius in this spot, so that the next time we're here, Kate is not even going to be in the gap there. Right. And I do see growth in that way and in his understanding, but we don't see it in the moment all the time, and I think that's probably some youthfulness, that's some belief, that's some natural, like, big headedness of being a super duper star at 24 years old. But I definitely see growth there, though. If he would have missed that shot, we would have came on here this morning and been like, what? I mean, come on, man. We would have ripped it too. So I don't know. It's part of the Ant growth experience, I think, is what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why I think it's fair to say like he should have passed the ball there. Like, and that's why I love that he said I should have passed the ball there.
Exactly. Yes.
Because he wasn't like result Trump's process there. He was like,
like the Boston. Think about his Boston. It was the comment against Boston a year ago where I don't want to be a guy that's passing all the time. That was literally against Boston.
Yeah.
So that's huge growth.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah. No. It really is like, I mean, we always kind of like, we look for like little progressions here and there. And I'm telling you, like, I just emphasize, like, he didn't say those things in the past. It would not have been like, I should have done this right after the game. It was always like the light bulb would always click on like something that went wrong. It especially never happened in a win, but something that went wrong. And even in a loss, it would be like, I don't know. Like, what coach say? Blah, blah, blah. Like, and then, and then 2 days later, be like, yeah, I need to do this. Yeah, I need to do that. After they'd gone through film and all this stuff. And then he would sink in. Cause like, into his coach, like, he'll watch a film session and go, oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. And then, then you hammer it in a few more times, and then it starts to become a little bit more habit. But so I thought it was
perfect example of that.
Yeah. Yes. That they have 5 days to prep. And then like, if you give him, like, if you hammer in things, like he's very good at applying it at that point, which is why he's really part of the reason, along with like, his fortitude and not being afraid of any moment, like why he's a great playoff player. But I also like saw this in, not to just kind of jump around, but I kind of want to go to the Thunder game because it is the same point here. And we had those turnovers, and it's like, what are the Wolves doing? And I think it's important, like, context of like, can you pull up the Dante turnover?
Yeah. Give me a second. Start talking.
Yeah. Okay. So they have the multiple turnovers, and it's like, man, Wolves late game execution. Oh my God. But okay. Go back to the beginning. Right here. Stop. There are 7 seconds have elapsed on the shot clock. We're pointing here. Dante has the ball at half court. 3 minutes left. 17 seconds on the shot clock. This play, Ant even said it afterwards, is designed to start in Ant's hands. And he gets denied on the inbounds. Okay. Dante brings it up the court. Ant did not have the ball. And it took him 7 seconds to cross the timeline, which is just like, there's just no way that should happen. Right. So by the time he finally gets there, Dante has his back turned. Shea pokes it away. Cass and Willis then gives it to Shea, 2 points. Okay. Wolves are like, all right, come back up the court. Same play. We didn't get into it anyway. But the whole thing is like, okay, Ant, the play is supposed to start with your hands. Like, even if you finally get the ball, we have wasted 8 seconds before we are even starting our action here. Like, that's not good offense. That's not good process. The whole thing's about pace. He's not in the screen. I don't know why it took him 7 seconds to come across half court when he didn't have the ball. Like, it would take you 3 seconds, and then you go to the next play. So they're coming back down the court. And
is the Jaden one?
Yes, it's the Jaden one. So it's right after the bucket. They throw it ahead to Jaden, like off the inbounds, they throw it ahead against OKC because nobody wants to dribble it up. Jaden brings it up. He looks like early offense. Julius is posting up. He looks to Julius at first. And Finch is like, no, throw it to Ant. We're going to run the play that we had called timeout of the timeout. But
Wallace
Ant
said, no, you're not.
Yeah. And Wallace said no. And Ant does this one effort. And then after that, he just gives up. And then Jaden stops and turns like, I got to throw it somewhere, and throws it to Jaden. It's like, those are the little things where it's like, Ant, the play is for you. You have to make every effort. Come grab the ball. Sprint up and grab
where we are again here.
19, 18 before he crosses half court. Like that's 6 seconds of crossing half court when you don't have the ball. Like those are the things that have to be like late in the game execution. We need time. We need the action. Like if there is a play and you start it at 16, you're only getting to like 2 actions out of it. You're a lot easier to defend anyway. It's just like those little efforts of like, this is your team. We designed to play for you. You have to make the effort to get the ball to get it started, like, and that it can't take you 6 seconds, 7 seconds to run across the court when you don't have the ball. But again, what I took that was so encouraging from it, because I didn't even realize that in real time watching it. It was actually Ant's comments saying I was lazy not getting the ball that like alerted me to it of like, oh, I should go back and watch that. And then Finch, I think, also said it, but it was Ant saying I was I was supposed to get the rock. I was lazy. But it's him right after the game saying that, where he would not have said that in the past. But Great he is point. Like these little things where he's like, I need to do this. I need to do this. I don't know if somebody's getting through to him right after the game, or if he is like thinking back on these things either way and going, yep, my bad. That's another.
Either way, he wasn't doing it before. He wasn't doing it in the past. We've been there a million times for those sort of situations. I'm actually really glad you brought this up, because I didn't know what Ant said after the game. So I didn't know that. I grabbed that clip thinking we were going to talk about that from a DiVincenzo standpoint.
Right.
Of a like,
and it's not great. I don't want to bail anybody out. Dante, like you can't get poked there. I mean, and Jaden, like, you can't throw that pass. Like I don't use a timeout, whatever. Like I'm not absolving those guys, but the best player when the play's called for him has to like show more urgency to go get the ball, make himself available. Even on the Julius 5-second amount, like it's very clear. Ant's the first read, couldn't make himself available. And that all goes into it, but I don't even care about that if like lessons are learned from it, of like, yep, that's a little thing I need to be better at. And I'm more confident lessons are learned about it when he talks about it, when he says it right afterwards.
It's a great point. And And it's such an answer to this team's biggest problem, which is being able to control the ball against ball pressure. Like that's the thing. That's the point guard problem. That's as great as Dante is at a lot of things, something he struggles with. He needs Ant to do that. What you're saying Ant needs to do, what Ant is saying he needs to do, to not turn it over there. Dante, it just doesn't have the hand. He's going to turn it over in that exact spot against Shea's, super long arms, picking him up at half court. Like Dante's going to turn it over in that spot a lot. It's the same thing in the Portland game, right? We've seen it other times in this season where Dante has de facto wound up being the guy who's bringing the ball up. To your point, to Ant's point, he wasn't supposed to be the one bringing it up there. They don't want him to bring it up there.
Right.
He just happens to be the point guard in, I don't even know what like stature. He's the shortest. So he's called that. But they don't want him to be doing that. I don't think with a minute and a half left, they want Jaden to be initiating a post up to Julius Randle when he's guarded by, was that Dort on Julius
Dort,
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Yeah, it was Dort. It was Dort on Julius. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's this team can't afford for Ant to not do that because they don't have alternative options for guys to bring the ball up the floor in those situations or initiate the offense effectively. That's not what you're going to get from Dante DiVincenzo, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Naz Reid or Rudy Gobert when they're out there. Who can do it in that spot? Who can do it on the bench? I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe Mike Conley, but then you're paying for that on the other side of the floor. Rob Dillingham, you're not going to close games with. Like, who are the options for you to be able to do this other than Ant? And I don't think at the beginning of the season Ant understood how much point guard he was going to play. Like when we were talking to him in training camp or talking about this stuff, I think Ant gets it now. Whatever we want to call it, point guard, lead guard, whatever. I think Ant understands that's what his job is, and I think 85% of the time he does it, or whatever. I don't even know what the number is. It's not 100% of the time, and it's a lower rate when we're talking about clutch time.
What was interesting is then after the Celtics game, they asked about, I think John or Chris asked about Mike being in the game late, and Finch said, "Oh, I should have that more." And the bonuses of that, and Ant said, "I don't want to be the one bringing it up the court," which was like, okay, like I think you're probably going to do it still a fair amount. And what was interesting to me then was like when he subbed back in against San Antonio, he did a good job of it. So like he can do it and he will do it. But it was interesting to hear him go, "I don't want to do that." And I was like, "Why don't you want to do that?" And he's like, "Well, there's always 10 eyes on me at all times. And so sometimes I think it's better for me to come from the bottom of the floor," which I get, and operate from that. But it is like, that's a little bit of like, it's what you want to do. And that's not really though, like when Mike's not out there, which he's not going to be. Like there's going to be plenty of games they still close without Mike for various reasons, where like it's still going to be on you. Which is fine. I'm all for, honestly, like if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But then just as long as you're willing to, and I think he is, which he showed again last night, willing to do it when the time comes. It's fine to be like, it's not my preference, but all right, I get it. We got to do it.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Your Home Improvement Company. And I would imagine there is a group of you out there listening right now that just had people over for Thanksgiving. You had the family over and you were like, "Man, we should have got that thing fixed in the house before grandma came over." You can correct that wrong and get it right by Christmas time. Get whatever needs home improving in your house done through Your Home Improvement Company. Let's get it done before the holidays. You know about their buy two, get two windows free deal they have with us. They also have 30% off bathroom renovations with us, but really it's any home improvement project that you have. Your Home Improvement Company has certified local professionals and all their work is backed by a lifetime warranty. Whatever your project is, Your Home Improvement Company offers great financing deals as well that requires zero money down, zero interest, and zero payments until 2027. Contact Your Home Improvement Company by calling 866-777-YHIC or by going to yourhomeimprovementco.com. Your Home Improvement Company, where it's your home made better. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. No Wolves game tonight. So let's do some Monday Night Football picks for our Prize Picks segment here. Give me Stephon Diggs to have more than 47.5 yards receiving for the Pats tonight. I am willing this into existence as my actual fantasy football team needs Diggs to have 50 yards tonight. Give me a productive Diggs game, please. And how about Tyrone Tracy to have more than 47.5 yards rushing? Let's do Diggs with 48 or more receiving yards and Tracy with 48 or more rushing yards. Let's make that our lineup. If you do not have a Prize Picks account yet and maybe want to play some Prize Picks tonight, all you got to do is put in the promo code Dane when you sign up, and your account will be credited with $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane when you create your account. How would you handle the nature of this if you were Tim Conley? Or like, what would the conversations, you'd be having, knowing that this is where Ant is at with this Ant saying he doesn't want to be bringing it up, like, do you let yourself as the GM or president of basketball operations, do you allow that to influence you to be like, well, maybe the plan is we just do need to have a point guard next to him for the duration of his prime, or is the more logical move to be patient with him and be like, okay, this is something that he's going to develop over time? I think the latter sounds more logical or better, but you also kind of run a risk of, is he ever going to be the player who wants that in that spot? Or is he going to be the player who wants that to come off ball and get the ball in those situations, late in games? Because if that is what he's going to want to be forever, then you do need to have somebody to be able to get him the ball in those spots. How would you think about that?
I mean, if I was Tim, I would say you got to put the ball in his hands and he's got to figure it out. Like I just like in terms of roster building, like if you're going to pay a point guard a lot of money there, like you're just losing a lot in a lot of other spots. I mean, like we've talked about, like there aren't like very many cheap floor generals out there to be like, that's definitely a guy we want on the court at the end of games, because that's one of our 5 best players to go out there. And it just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the NBA. I honestly think so often, like we talk about point guard in a way that we would never talk about point guard if Mike wasn't on the team. Like if we didn't have a direct example, like a lot of teams probably don't even talk about point guard because there's not really a real one out there. Sure. Like, I mean, you look at it, Atlanta, like when Trae Young's out or whatever, it's like it's Nikhil, it's Dyson Daniels, and like it just is what it is, like that. And I get it, like Trae Young's on the roster, but there's a lot of teams like that where it's like, yeah, they don't have one, but it's not a big deal because you all know that this guy's going to bring it up anyway. And I think like the best version of the team is Ant doing that, and then him empowering others and making others better, and that's how it becomes a championship team when the best player has control of everything and he's making life easier for himself and others. And I think if your ultimate goal is to win a championship, and I know Ant's is, whether that happens this year or in the future, it will be because he reaches that level. And how's he going to reach it if he doesn't have the ball in his hands for good or bad, the learning lessons along the way? Like he needs to learn that, like the urgency you have to have against the best team in the last 3 minutes to this plays for you. Here's how hard you have to work to get the ball. Sure. I don't know if he's going to learn that if there's always like a point guard out there who is inevitably making your team not optimal in other areas just to make this little part easier. I just think like over the course, it's better for Ant to have to go through it and learn. And like, sometimes you do have to force guys' hands on that. And that's just part of it.
Yeah. And that's very much the sense that I get of what Tim's feel of it is. I don't know. I mean, I'm influenced though by like what I hear other people having conversations. I mean, when your friends text you about the Timberwolves or people text you about the Timberwolves, is the number one thing not about, oh man, they need a point guard, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so I agree with you. I agree with this thought process that we're giving to Tim. I think a lot of people do not agree with that. Yeah. And would say, Ant's never going to be that. He's MJ. He's not Harden, right? And
I would have to go back and watch. Like, did MJ bring the ball up the court late in the games? Or was it always like Ron Harper or whoever? Like,
I don't think. No, I do not think he was the one initiating it. Obviously, like some apples and oranges there, but I mean, like Kobe too. It wasn't. I mean, the game is just so shifted to like the way they spread it, that kind of the guy you want to have the ball in their hands. You either need to quickly get into an action to get them the ball, or
so much
they
of it's
need to
pick
start
and
with
roll. So much of it's pick and roll anyway. That it's
some
just
sort of
easier
spread interchange, trying to get an advantage. Like that's not how basketball worked previously. It wasn't like constantly hunting for an advantage situation. That's what basketball is about now. It used to just be about get the best guy the ball and then, play from there. Can he score? Is somebody open on a cut?
And then we saw Ryan Russillo tweet out clips of like the NBA playoffs, and it's like there is no help defense, so just beat your guy, and then you can go score.
I got him.
Yep.
Anything else, Ant, like specific through those 3 games?
No, like I don't think Ant, like pointing out things he didn't do and say he played bad. I think he played really well for big chunks of those games. I just wanted to point out my biggest takeaway was that I was impressed that the things that he did not do well or did not handle correctly that he pointed out right away. Like I just think like when we cover a guy for so long, like you kind of learn like, oh, he's going to say this, probably he's going to say this or whatever. And then when they say something different or they handle it differently, you're like, ears almost perk up, and that I had those moments twice in the last week. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I do think it maybe is like the next step of immediate recognition of those little things, like those little things that I think not only matter just for you in like your ascension as a player, but like your team's execution late in games, especially when the ball's in your hands. The more he realizes those things, the more likely he is to be thinking about it in the moment, executing it. And then I think along with that growth, the Timberwolves will automatically become a better clutch time team when those thoughts really start to click in real time, which I think this is like another step toward that direction.
Yeah, automatically is the right word. Like these things are ironed out. Wolves become like, I don't know about elite, but like really good. They would become really good in clutch time situations. And we know currently they're mediocre to bad, often bad thus far this season. But I think there's room to grow there. Let's talk about last night a little bit. I didn't find there to be much like thematically to take away from that game outside of the one big theme that I saw, which was going away from Rudy Gobert in the second half of that game and leading into the smaller, faster, less defensive personnel identity of this team, which you and I have certainly been talking about all season, of that being something. Finch is leaning in this direction. Finch is leaning towards offense personnel. And I feel like he's doing that more and more. You saw that at the end of the Boston game a bit too. Rudy just came in for like rebounding purposes with like 30 seconds left. But last night, Rudy gets subbed out with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. The Wolves are down 70-77. They're down by 7. And he doesn't come back in for the rest of the game. And that first lineup that was out there, I think it was Shannon that came in for Rudy, and they go super small. Naz Reid at the 5, Terrence Shannon at the 4, Anthony Edwards at the 3, Jalen Clark at the 2, however you want to do that, or Mike Conley at the 1. And I noticed it like right away. I was like, oh, wow, Julius isn't even out here. This is just Naz. They're playing, like they're going really small against this San Antonio team. I did not expect it to kind of hold for the rest of the game. They played well the rest of the third quarter there. The Wolves won kind of with that group, or remaining small in the third quarter, 19-16 for the rest of the third quarter. Was 89-93. Wolves down 4 going into the fourth quarter. But then they did not bring Gobert back to start the fourth quarter, as they often do. And they did bring Randle back, and it was Reed, Randle, and a mix of other wings / guards for the rest of that game. And I wrote down, when Reed and Randle checked out of the game with 1.5 minutes to go in the fourth, the Wolves were up 125-109, which meant it was a 55-32 run in that time since they took out Rudy Gobert. We could talk about Rudy not being out there, but what did you see that group do in that time?
Yeah, just like the first 5 minutes of the third, like you talk about the 19-16, that was over 5 minutes. That's a quarter long pace of 45-38. So like it was literally like exactly what you would expect of that period was exactly what you expect of non-Rudy minutes or really small lineup minutes. Like can score, can't stop. I mean, it was like Dylan Harper would just like come down the lane and then he would like forearm shiver Jalen Clark, and like you could say, oh, that should be an offensive foul, but like guys just do that, and Jalen just got, I don't know how he got moved so easily.
I
and then
remember
there was
that
no
one,
yeah, there was I think two. I kind of remember that at least looked like that. One was very obvious, and then there was nothing at the rim behind Jalen, so it was like, yeah, he scored. But yeah, like it was just back and forth. It was like they score, we score, they score, we score. Like that was the two teams going at it like that. The beginning of the fourth, I loved the ball movement and everything. Like I thought the shots they generated, everything was so quick. Like the amount of time, like there were plenty of times where a guy would have the ball and pass it in literally like that 0.5 mentality of like the swing or going back the other way, or Julius being really quick with the drive and then a kick out. All that type of stuff was awesome. But the zone defense was really good. And what was funny was watching it back this morning a couple times. I was like, okay, they played zone this whole time. This zone definitely got distorted. There's nobody over there. Dante, for some reason, is under the hoop. But it worked out great, and it was a great call because the Spurs were broke from three last night. And the Spurs still got good looks from three, largely, and they just didn't hit them. But Minnesota, that zone just entirely took the Spurs out of that mid-range spot where like Fox and Vassell and those guys are so good. And what I liked about Minnesota zone is there's a lot of effort put into it. Of like guys were really like scrambling out. So like even the threes that were open were actually being contested and like sped up a little bit, even if they were probably still open by definition. So I liked the zone decision by Chris Finch, and I liked the zone execution by the guys out there. And then stops obviously allow you to play even faster in the full court and, you know, even your half court stuff. It just was a really good combination of the two, I thought.
It was funny after the game. Finch was like, I don't know why, but we oftentimes have better activity in a zone than we do in a man-to-man. That's what you're describing. And sometimes activity looks like distortion, right? Like in a zone, because you're just kind of like, well, I'm not going to just let this guy go here.
Yes,
yes,
that was Dante. He was following like Shim Penny under the hoop, and then it was like, well, now there's nobody over there. It didn't matter because Keldon Johnson, like there was somebody open on the wing. It was Harrison Barnes and Keldon Johnson, like kind of just settled for like an 8-footer instead. But yeah, it was like, this is zone. I'm pretty sure it's still zone. You know,
we were talking about that too. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's zone. They keep going back to the same spots to start every time.
Right.
I mean, it was an active, like it was an active zone, you know, like more like a matchup zone type of deal. But I'm glad you brought up the zone. I'm glad we're bringing up the defense because, you know, I did the little run through those numbers of what it was at the beginning. I'm talking about Rudy coming off the floor, and I'm saying you're playing more offensive personnel, which is Rudy did come off the floor. They did play more offensive personnel, but according to Finch after the game, it was for defensive purposes. He did not like what the Rudy defense, not only Rudy, but how they were playing, you know, their drop defense, relying on Rudy was not working. I asked Finch about that. I'm gonna play that clip. Oh, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, don't play it.
Don't play. So anyways, I don't know. I'm getting a big like X on here right now. So we won't play the clip, but I mean, that's just what he said. He was like, they had like 50 some paint points in the third quarter. And he said, we had to do something differently to like present resistance in the lane, which that is normally what you would have gone to Rudy Gobert for, you know, in previous seasons. But he went away from Rudy Gobert in this game for defensive purposes, which was interesting for me because I'm sitting there being like, okay, I'm pretty sure Rudy's not been out here because he just wants to try and outscore San Antonio the rest of the way. But I have like a whole subset topic that I wanted us to talk about of like, I kind of think Rudy Gobert is playing his like best offense of his time in Minnesota. Obviously that is a really low bar, but like activity, I mean, he's been a force on the offensive glass consistently. He's been a better passer. He's finding more in different ways, you know, to score for this team on the short roll. It's all ugly. I get it. All I'm saying is it's the best offense I've seen from Rudy from an impact standpoint in his 4 years that he's been there. So I was very perplexed by the decision in the moment afterwards when Finch kind of clarified. I'm like, oh, you went to the Reed Randle lineup for defensive purposes, which I would have kind of laughed at in the moment, but it was right. It was because it wasn't just Reed and Randle playing normal man-to-man defense. They went to a zone. They were active in it. And they played a lot better offense with those two guys out there than they could have with Rudy. That's the thing, too. Rudy can be having his best offensive season in his Minnesota time, and there's just a ceiling on what the Wolves offense can do due to what Rudy can't do, due to the space that he occupies, in the lane. Rudy's presence deters from the half-second 0.5 mentality that you're talking about there. Even if he's learning how to position himself better, get on the offensive glass, pass better on the short roll, all of those things, his presence on the floor caps the Wolves ceiling offensively. So I just thought it was like a interesting sort of like inflection point in my head of like, oh, like Rudy on off is not only about offense, defense, in Finch's mind. Today's show is brought to you by Harry's. Very excited to have Harry's on board with us for the holiday season because these are the razors I actually use and have used for years. I remember shopping for razors used to be the worst. Not only were they too expensive, but it was also a process to go to the store and buy the razors. And they never seemed to last, which led to a dull razor, which led to razor burn. My first reaction when using Harry's was, oh, okay, this is what shaving is supposed to feel like. With Harry's Plus, you get a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. Each blade is honed at 3 different angles to cut hair cleanly at the root without tugging. And I think the best part of Harry's might be how affordable it is. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany, so there's no outsourcing, no middlemen. Why pay $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of the cost? For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/DaneMoore. The set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/DaneMoore to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. So please support our show and tell them we sent you. Today's show is also brought to you by Storyworth Memoirs. They're back this week, and we're excited to have Storyworth back as a holiday season gift option for your parents or loved ones. I think if you're around my age, this is a great gift to give your parents. The idea behind Storyworth is uncovering stories you didn't know about your loved one. So how this works is each week Storyworth emails a loved one a memory-provoking question that you get to choose. Questions like, what are your favorite toys as a child? What are you most proud of? And all your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. Then after a year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book. Photos are printed in color, and it will be a treasure your loved one and you will be able to share and revisit for generations. Customers love Storyworth. They've printed over 1 million books and preserved 35 million family stories since their founding 13 years ago. They also have over 48,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. I am going to use Storyworth this holiday season. I think you should too. Give your loved ones a unique keepsake you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth Memoirs. Right now, save $10 or more during their holiday sale when you go to storyworth.com/DaneMoore. That's storyworth.com/DaneMoore to save $10 or more on your order.
When did you say Naz and Julius checked out of that game?
Minute and a half left in the fourth.
Okay, so let's say it's 2 minutes. And then they checked in with 5. So that's 15 minutes that they scored 55 points. Like, that's insane. I mean, that's yeah. Hang on, something like, I mean, you're talking about like 175 point pace for a game. If you play 15 minutes that way, like, and it looked like that. It really did. But the zone, like, I looked up Finch's quote. You summarized it really well. He was like, yeah, they're getting to the mid range. They're getting to the paint too easily. 50 some paint points, all of that. The zone, like, because we know the biggest deficiencies with Randle and Reed. It's not only like no rim protection. It's like, okay, and then Balkan Tane has to be so good when there's no rim protection. But inevitably, if those two are out there, it's not so automatically like there's no size means that if the other team has like a good post scoring threat, that guy's probably going to feast. But a lot of teams don't even have that. But it's really easy when Naz and Julius are both out there to target them, one of them. Oftentimes it ends up being Naz in those spots. And then if you get beat or whatever, then there's no help behind. really easy offense to generate because you get a significant advantage. So no, defense really has to collapse because there's not just like a rim deterrent there. But the zone just really like takes away all of that, like all of the easy, obvious advantages to where it's more like, okay, you're going to get this stuff, but it's more of the stuff that we can kind of push you into the stuff we want you to get versus you just picking. So I thought that was a very, it may maybe like, I don't know if it can be like a full-time solution when those guys are out there, but it certainly is a very nice change up. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's a zone always needs to be an off-speed pitch. This is not like an answer to solving the Reed Randle minutes. You know, it's just not. And like you said, they weren't hitting from three. It was the type of personnel to use it against, like great in the moment recognition of that by the staff. Let's lean into this. Let's take Gobert out to play better interior defense. Like bold move, super smart, won 1,000,000-0, you know, the rest of the game. Zone defense is never a solution. It's never a long-term solution. It's a Band-Aid. And that's cool. Like need Band-Aids. You need a lot. You need Band-Aids. And this team, especially when Rudy's not off the floor, is going to need Band-Aids throughout the season. When everybody was talking about how awesome the zone was in the locker room, you know, after the game, I was like, okay, you know, wait until you play like a team that does have a guy who's just going to hit that above the break three every time they're going to get to the middle, and it's going to be right here. You know, like teams know how to beat zones. San Antonio didn't last night. They didn't have the execution personnel, whatever, to be able to do it, but definitely have it in your repertoire. It's your off-speed pitch. Use it, you know?
And it's exactly when like they're getting to certain spots, like Vassell is an excellent 16-foot guy. Like, and so now all of a sudden he's getting in a rhythm on that. And then all of a sudden he can't get to it anymore. And like, same with Fox. And like, it's going to take them time to adjust of like, okay, I've been doing this for 3 quarters. Now what do I do? Like, you know, like even, and those are like, De'Aaron Fox seen a lot of stuff, seen a lot of coverage, smart player, like still like gives you that hesitation. And now maybe you botch it one possession and now the next possession, somebody else does it. And then you actually generate an open three for somebody, then they miss it. And you're like, all right, not that. And all of a sudden it snowballs and they're scoring the other way. And the whole thing is just like your deficit has ballooned. And yeah, those are just like those little spurts, like those, like you mentioned the Band-Aid. It's just like almost like a spark for them of like, okay, that worked for this time. Now you go back, you can play it honestly from there.
Last thing on the defense in this game, and I want to talk a little bit about the OKC game. But what stood out to me in the first half a lot was Keldon Johnson. Yeah. And it's because Jaden has to guard De'Aaron Fox, right? You can't put Mike Conley cannot guard De'Aaron Fox. In that spot, you're not going to put Dante DiVincenzo on there. And that's what I would have done too. Like, of course, we're putting Jaden on De'Aaron Fox here. But it left it so Keldon Johnson's probably like, I don't know, like 225, 230. I mean, like just babying, you know, Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham, those guys in those spots. Talk about, you know, Dylan Harper doing that to Jalen Clark. He did that to a lot of guys throughout the game. Like it was an example of a time where they needed more strength off of the ball, you know, and you had to have Jaden on the ball there. And so I was talking to Britt during the game. I'm like, they have to do something different here. Somebody else needs to be able to guard Fox so that these other guys stop going off, you know? And what I said in the moment was, what about Ant? You know, what about Ant on Fox here? And then having Jaden be kind of off ball. He's on Johnson. He's not going to be able to just like walk him into the post and post him up and score there. That was my answer in the moment, but that's kind of what the zone defense was, right? It's just like kind of help on Fox at the top and Jaden on the interior. I think the zone worked great and could be more than I'm saying it could be because Jaden is like the center in those lineups. And now you
I saw people read that, and when I watched it back, it was mostly Julius down there. It was Jaden up top.
I'm just talking about rim protection.
I hear you, but it was Julius in the spot of doing it. Like Jane was up top a lot of that zone. Because I saw like people mention
I
that,
look back at
and
it.
there were a couple.
I have one in my head I'm thinking of right now.
Sure,
but
right.
I wasn't watching on TV, so
yeah. And I didn't notice in real time either. And I was like, and so I saw people mention, I was like, yeah, okay. And then I watched back this morning. I'm like, Julius was actually down there most of the time. Jaden
so
was
would you say
starting
that
up top.
Jaden was on Fox? Like, what? I mean, I know it's his own.
I'd have to watch back again.
Yeah.
To give you an exact matchup thing on that.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I will too, because I was thinking that the zone was an answer for the problem that I was.
I like Jaden at the bottom of his zone for reference, but I also think so much of a zone is how much can you disrupt up top. And like, it's like when like teams would play like a 1-3-1, like in college basketball, it's like the top guy is the most important guy because it's like, how long are they? And like in the 2-3, it is kind of like those wing things of how much can you disturb? Because now it's harder to even make that middle entry if your guy is long up top, and Jaden kind of is that. So I understand, I like him down low, but I also really understand that he can be very valuable up top in that same look. So I see benefits to both, frankly.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and look at it. In my head, sitting here having rewatched none of it, I think the zone helped answer the problem of Vassell, Johnson, Harper doing work against the Wolves' less effective perimeter defenders, right?
Yeah, it did. I think,
It did, but maybe I'm misdiagnosing how it did there. I think the broader point is like, I want to see a diversity of ways that they can guard a De'Aaron Fox type guy. And I think we point to that being like Jalen Clark a lot of the time. But one, I don't know how much Jalen Clark we're just going to see. Like, if Jalen Clark plays 11 minutes a night, like, I'm not sure that can be your answer there. They need to figure out some things there for the nights when Jaden has to be on the main guy and the secondary guys have a physical or skill advantage, because that really stood out to me in the first half. Like, Mike Conley had nothing for Keldon Johnson, which I understand. Keldon Johnson's 6 inches taller than him, probably has 40 pounds on him, and wants to play that way,
right?
So it's a thing, but they found a broad stroke solution to it, which was the zone. Moving on to okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to be like, we talked a lot about Jalen Clark, and I kind of want to be fair of like. And I think this is true of all three of the young guys, like TJ, Rob, and Jalen. Like, you're seeing it as a good reminder of it. Like, these guys are pretty inconsistent players, especially at this point in their career. Like, TJ one night it'll be like, this guy should start. And then the next two games will be like, this guy shouldn't play. And Jalen is like, oh my God, look at this spark plug. Like, look at what he's bringing. And then there'll be other times in the game where it's like, he's not doing any of that. And he's not hitting the outside shot. So he's kind of hurting you on both ends. Like, so I understand, as much as sometimes it's like, oh, consistent minutes might help iron through that. It is, again, a balance of like, they're trying to win. Like, it's very clear that, like, from the team perspective, they want to win games. And we're just seeing like, one night you're getting this version of the guy, and the next night you're not. And there's certain times where I'm like, okay, Jalen's kind of guarding everybody the same. And it might be nice if he would have different approaches of like, I'm not just going to be right on your hip here like the whole time with different guys. Sometimes just stay in front.
Talk about an off-speed pitch.
Yeah, like, and it's, I mean, and I get that can come with experience, and maybe you need reps to do that, and maybe you need reps to find consistency and find the different pitches you can throw. And TJ, like, maybe defensively, maybe it's a reps thing, but he's really struggling on that end. And the offense is like, the teams where they're getting the most ball pressure are the teams where they're actually using TJ in transition. They're like, go, I don't want to dribble this. And the teams that don't supply that ball pressure, they don't take as much advantage of him in transition. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, now he's not nearly as impactful. So we're just seeing like different matchups and stuff of like, we talk about the young guys, got to play more. We got to do this, got to do that. We've talked about Clark. I at least want to acknowledge the detractions on them is they are like, they do almost make sense in certain situations right now. And maybe that can't be the case for development. I don't know. But you can see more of like, okay, yeah, I see why they're not like a staple of like rotations at this point.
100%. I don't know how you can expect consistency for a player who's played under 1,000 minutes in his career. As I think all three of them have. Yeah. I mean, my answer would be play 2 of the 3. I don't even care. I don't even care who it is.
So you're probably giving like 4 or 5 more minutes per game than each one if you're doing that?
Yeah, and I think you avoid the like...
Am I subbing out?
Sure. Or like Terrence Shannon Jr. came in the first sub of the game
Yep.
And he played 5 minutes, and then he did not come back in until the end of the third quarter. Like,
right.
I mean, I don't know. I just imagine that would be very difficult from a mental standpoint, especially when specific to TJ there. Awesome against Oklahoma City.
Yep.
I didn't what Boston bad, right?
Yes. Yep.
Right. Like, and now you're coming back in. I don't know. I just think if that was like Kyle Anderson, Joe Ingles, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, some guys just with a little bit more experience, a lot more experience, I think you can play that role more effectively.
Yeah. The problem is like when you have those three guys, they all have very distinct skill sets. And the great part about we talked about this in the offseason. Nickeil brought a little bit of all of it. So there was never like this matchup doesn't make sense for Nickeil, or we really need Nickeil tonight. Like he kind of fit in all of them. And I agree, but he fits into all these things. And now you're basically replacing him with three players into one. And it's like, okay, but tonight we just need this attribute. So that's this guy or this one, or like we need more on ball defense, or we need to get out more in transition. And so it's like, it's hard to be like, hey, we're only playing these two when it's like a matchup might arise where it's like, but we definitely need the third guy a lot more than we need these two tonight. That's what's tough about having these guys who have very distinct skill sets right now, as far as what they're going to bring you, and very distinct deficiencies.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I don't know the answers. I mean, we are asking about this all the time, and that Finch's plan, he said, is just going to be kind of to do this. He's also said at times, like that. Well, pregame last night, Jack asked him about going with Clark versus Shannon in the non-Rudy minutes. And Finch was like, it might seem like we have at times it'll be 2 games in a row. We'll play Jalen when Rudy's not out there, or TJ. He goes, we're just feeling it as we go through the game. These things are not scripted, And Finch has also said, I don't know if all the guys are going to play in a given night. Now they have all been. He's gotten to 10. Every game. I mean, Jalen Clark didn't get in, I think, until 7 minutes left in the second quarter for his first time.
And that was a feel thing again. I think that was a feel thing. Maybe not Jalen, and then watching the defense of okay, let's get Jalen out there. And he actually provided a really nice boost in that second quarter.
He was the best of the 3 last night. I thought. I want to say this. I think we're about to get better, Rob. Not to the point where you go, this makes sense that he's in the rotation. I'm not saying some breakout and he's going to average 18 in December. I do see something coming there. And having kind of the last maybe 3 weeks that Jalen Clark had, where you're actually if you can give this to us 3 out of every 4 games, is going to be really valuable because we're deficient in that area. I know Rob's really struggled this year. I've been on that. I see a greater comfort. I see less thinking, and maybe that's just over these last 3 games over the last week. It just wouldn't shock me if we go December 2025 was far and away Rob Dillingham's best month of his career, and it stopped feeling like he was being gifted minutes, and he was helping in those minutes there. Now, is he going to get them given this Clark, Shannon, Rob sort of thing? I don't know. I think you probably got to give him a little bit more leash.
What's the minimum amount of minutes? I know we talk about 6 minutes isn't good for a guy, but what is enough of a number where you're that's enough? That's always the thing that I'm curious of. What's the cutoff of that is a fair amount of minutes for a young player to play in a game? Is it 12?
I would say it's multiple shifts over 5.
I don't know. So 2 6-minute shifts gets you to 12. That.
I've had numerous players complain just talk about when they've played a 3 or 4 minute shift.
I get that.
They're doing. They're I can't do anything in this time. I'm terrible every single time. I only play 3 or 4 minutes. Just different players over the time with the Wolves. So my mildly educated guess on that would be double-digit minutes, multiple shifts.
Yeah. So okay, I think that's fair. I think if you get 2 6-minute shifts in a game, it's hey, you play for a good team. This This is
Cool.
like, and that's your minimum, and you can earn more than that.
Rob didn't get
every
that
night.
last night.
Sure. No, yeah, I agree. I'm not saying like, hey, they're getting it. I'm just like setting a baseline of like what we think is fair. And I think like 2 6-minute shifts is fair. Like if you get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they can get to that. If 10
it's tough with 10. I agree, because they have so many other guys where it's like, well, he's not going to play Julius Randle 24 minutes. That wouldn't make sense. You know, like where are you taking the minutes from is so often the case. Like,
and now Nas is playing more and should be playing more.
Right. Yeah. And like you could say, well, don't play like Mike Conley. It's like, I don't think that's, and I know like Chase was Mike Conley. Like there are clearly times where it's like he's very valuable to be on the court in these instances to where not having him in the rotation wouldn't make sense either. So I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in. And then you see like Rob's pace against like an OKC is an important thing. TJ's pace against an OKC is an important thing. It's the wild thing about like when you get to the playoffs of like against Denver, are those guys helpful? I don't know if they are. But then again, the next matchup,
Shannon Jr. would be helpful in an Oklahoma City playoff series.
That's what I'm saying. OKC, I think both guys make sense. TJ definitely does. I think even Rob makes sense of like adding pace to it. But it's just the thing of like, oh, so then do you work them up all year to get them prepared for that? It's like maybe, I don't know, because I don't know if they're very good matchups in the series leading up to that. You know, like so it really is kind of a catch-22 in those spots.
Okay. Last thing I want to talk about a little bit. Julius Randle last night against the Spurs, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 12 assists, was a plus 30 in the game. Like check out that plus minus compared to the other starters. And it's stark. He fueled that team in the fourth quarter, the beautiful basketball that they were playing in the fourth quarter that you wrote about today. Like that was Julius Randle and Mike Conley playing in tandem and like playing off of each other seamlessly. Randle was awesome. And I'm, of course, saying that to set up the Oklahoma City game where Julius Randle extremely struggled again in that matchup there. And it goes back to this thing that we talk about with Julius Randle often of in these advantage situations, killer, like cannot be stopped, you know, especially if his teammates are hitting the threes around him, because he can if he got an advantage on you, he's going to score or he's going to find his teammates. He does not have that against Oklahoma City. And I think it would be wild to go into the next Oklahoma City matchup or an Oklahoma City playoff series and say, we're still seeking out advantage basketball for Julius Randle against this opponent. I think Julius Randle has shown in the Oklahoma City series that he has to have a different role, like in this matchup, because he cannot do what he is elite at against this Thunder team. We saw it again on Wednesday night, and we saw it on obviously all 5 games of the Western Conference Finals last season. So what I wrote down that I wanted to talk about with you is like, what does this look like? How would you approach using Julius Randle the next time you play Oklahoma City, or, you know, fast forwarding to a playoff series? Would you just roll it out and be like, we're still playing the same way, we're doing this same way, we're trying to play Julius Randle basketball? Or do you have to recognize that he can't do the same stuff against that team? So
I think it was like the most informed I've ever been from like an ESPN broadcast moment of, they were talking, the Southern Reporter, I want to give credit, but I can't remember their name, was talked to Randle before the game and brought it up on the broadcast. And Julie said, like, so many teams are comfortable, like you going off and then the people around you not. And OKC is so hell-bent on taking away your best players and making other people beat you. And that all, like, watching the game through that lens, the rest of the game was like, oh my God, yeah. Like, they just care about stopping it and stopping Julius. That's all they care about. That's why, like, when TJ gets out there, he's literally being guarded by a center who's only even kind of guarding him. And then it's like, okay, so you have to have guys who are taking advantage of that at all times. And like, you have to be comfortable almost telling those guys, like, you have to be our best scorers tonight. And that to me is why it makes the most sense why the Pacers, who had like 5 different scoring options out there at all times, all guys comfortable taking the shots, all guys comfortable scoring, who had the most success against OKC throughout the playoffs, of like, they are scoring because it's everybody out there. Like, you don't even know who to target defensively. Like, who are we setting up everything to stop here? Like, it was the pace, but it was also everybody being willing to score. It really does, like, when they play OKC, it has to be the other three guys on the court, the ball has to move enough that they can get the ball with enough time to take advantage of their situations, their open shots, they're like playing off the catch, whatever. The ball has to move to get started to take advantage of that. So that's like the first step. But then B, like you do also need three guys on the court who are like, I can score too. I'm comfortable like taking advantage of my matchup here. I'm not even really being guarded, and I am comfortable scoring out of that. And Jaden can do that, and TJ can do that. And then it's like, who else can do that consistently?
I mean, that's why I think Dante's huge in this matchup.
Yeah,
from
I agree.
A floor spacing standpoint. Like, if I'm going into that matchup, I am like, but let's try to get 5 made threes for Dante in the first half.
That's where it's hard though. Of like, okay, OKC then would be like, yep, but that they do give up like the threes on this kickouts, and again, part of it's like that they just don't care about the other guys on the court. Like, and so that's why the corner three is always open, and Minnesota
make them care.
So many of them. I agree with that. Then Dante then just becomes, especially over the course of like a series of, okay, we're chasing that guy off the line no matter what, as hard as you can. And then it's like on to Dante to prove off the bounce, which sometimes looks good. Sometimes he actually makes out of it. A lot of times doesn't look good. That's like the challenge with it. But I agree that Dante has to be one of those guys. He has to be, because he can make you pay off of that. And like, it's just comfortable and confident shooting the ball. But that's the biggest thing that I've just noticed and seen of like Julius isn't going to have like big stat lines against OKC because they have the defensive talent to do it and are so like locked in and we're going to stop you. Ant is scoring like in spite of the like defensive attention, but the team offense is bad in those spots. So it's like, how do you use those two to maybe get an action started or something, make OKC commit, and then quickly get off and let 3 other guys who are all comfortable and confident scoring do it. And I guess I don't know how to explain to you, I'd run this and this and this, but that general concept seems like the way to do it.
No, I think that's a great point. That was I don't remember who the sideline reporter was too, but that was like right at the beginning of the game, and I was like, oh yeah, great Julius quote.
Yes.
The thing is, Ant, we juxtapose what Julius can do versus what Ant can do against Oklahoma City is Ant has more of a perimeter creation game, the step back, to be able to work more laterally, whereas Julius is going north-south to get into the middle of the floor, to collapse the defense, to kick out. That's the net that the Thunder lay. They want that. That's
good luck making these passes.
And other players who play like Julius struggle in that way too, because they don't have the advantage. Like I'd be interested to watch Şengün play against Oklahoma City, in a playoff series there too. What can he do in those spots? I think the point being, and I think we have enough, or my point I want to make, and I think we have enough examples of this, is if you continue to try to do this with Julius and play that same way and don't adjust his role to some degree or try to get to his offense in some sort of different way, then you're going to have higher turnover games and you're going to have more of these. Wasn't he 2 for 13?
So he's 2 for 13, and that's 3 times now in the last 6 games dating back to the West Finals where he's made 2 or fewer shots, which, which is really rare for him in general. And it's been consistent now against OKC.
Well, and it also just creates like this incongruency with what the Wolves are used to. The Wolves are used to Julius Randle, as they should. And yes, he has proven against every other team that I can make you 9-10 shots in a game and I can get you 9-10 assists in a game, regardless of how they're guarding me. I can do that against anybody. And the Wolves are used to that. That is like the plan. It was the plan last night.
It's their best team offense. It's their best team offense. Yeah. It's when they're really rolling. It's like when they're like, oh my God, look at this team play basketball right now. Like, it's incredible.
Right. I don't want to do the trade Julius thing. But I'm thinking about it similarly to like, what are your aspirations, right? What are your aspirations for where this team can go? And like, what does it need to do to be able to beat the king of the hill? As the Wolves learned with Denver, they needed Rudy for that. They needed the Rudy and Cat thing to be able to handle that Denver team. And that adjustment, and through that, the double bigs thing played a huge role in them being able to beat Denver. The new king of the hill is Oklahoma City. And I don't think Julius Randle helps them against Oklahoma City on the offensive side of the floor. He's their weakest defender in the starting lineup, and he's guarding Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams when he's back. And that's a major issue specific to this matchup. So I'm not saying you need to trade Julius Randle, but you need to create yourself a path to be able to compete with the king of the hill if you see yourself to be a contender in the now, because this is what the Wolves are doing against Oklahoma City, and specifically through the Julius Randle lens, is very much not working, while simultaneously this season, Julius Randle has been fucking awesome. Awesome. All-star. Not against Oklahoma City. I don't know how to square that if I'm a team trying to win a championship with Anthony Edwards right now, or be at the table, as Tim Conley says. You're not at the table against Oklahoma City if Julius Randle is a huge part of your plan against Oklahoma City. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's just what that game said on Wednesday and what the conference finals said, back in May.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think you mentioning the Rudy thing for Denver is a great one, in that, okay, you beat the king of the hill, and then that wasn't even the king of the hill anymore. So like constantly trying to solve one problem can open things up for you in another one. Like it's not like they won the championship when they beat Denver, even if it felt like it for 2 days. Randle, like I really do think I would like to see this play out, in that I just think it's been awesome in that he is representing and creating the basketball that they want to play, that they've aspired to play for so long, that actually makes everyone else around him better. That Nas defense looks bad, I know, but like Nas's offense looks really good when Julius is out there. Jaden's offense looks really good when Julius is out there. He's like creating the pace and the rhythm and all of that. And like, I would just like to see a full season of like, hey, their offense looks like really good. Because so often it's like start, stop. And I like, if they could fully lean into it. And every time Julius talks, I'm like, man, he just sounds like Chris Finch when he's talking. Like, he's like, it's quick decisions. It's doing this. It's getting off the ball. It's creating for others. It's starting the next action. And it's like, you watch against the Spurs, it's like amazing. And I know that it doesn't work the same as the Thunder. I get that. But maybe if it just became more of like a consistent thing either way, like I just want to watch that basketball. Like, so I get all that. And I don't think
it could be better than 2 of 13.
Correct.
If it's like baked into their DNA and this is who they are, and Julius is that, like Julius can give you better than what his last 6 games.
I mean, because a lot of times against the Thunder, yes, they're stacking up against Julius. Yes, there's no advantage, but then they also stagnate big time. And that's not all just Julius. Yeah. Sometimes his basketball looks way worse when the offense is stagnated, and it's not always stagnating because of him. Like stagnant basketball is his worst basketball. But again, it's not like he's the one being like, I would like to stagnate right now. I want to hold on to the basketball. So I think that's part of the problem as well. And so maybe if you play a full year where you don't just sit and hold and dribble the basketball, you all will just be more adept and able to take on like an Oklahoma City, just doing a lot of the things that you've done all year at a high level. They didn't do that against, like, they just went right back into isolation basketball against the Thunder on that night. And again, like they finally actually did find some offense in the fourth quarter. Yeah. But so that's why I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would give up on that. But you're not saying to do that either. It's just like, it's a talking point and people are bringing it up, and here's why you would do it.
It just looks like they've run into some sort of wall here. No, I like the pushback there. And I bet you there's other tweaks too that people smarter than us could point out. I think you could play through Julius at a greater depth. I mean, I think you could play like true post up, with him rather than like 16 feet into post up, then he's going into the net. Like if he starts with a greater depth there, I think you could do more against that. Maybe the answer against Oklahoma City is not Rudy, and you just relying on the offense in that spread fashion that leads to quicker decision making, which is going to lead to less congestion. Maybe the answer to get better Julius is to have less Rudy out there against Oklahoma City there. I guess my biggest point is the current plan against Oklahoma City is not working.
Right.
And the most egregious outlier from the norm of what the Timberwolves are doing night to night is Julius Randle's production in those games, versus what he's doing right now against everyone else, which is against the Spurs. Nasty. nasty last night. He won the game. They cannot stop him. There's been, how many games? Like, there's probably been 10 games this year where I go, that team had absolutely nothing for Julius Randle tonight. That's not the case against Oklahoma City, and they're the best team in the league, and they're at the top of the Western Conference Finals, and that's who you lost to in the Western Conference Finals last year. That's what your best players say all the time is the goal of the season, and the importance of this season is to do this and get back to the Western Conference Finals and beat them. We have a problem against that opponent, and they need to find some new answers there because, Julius hasn't helped there of late.
Yeah, I would just have to see games where they made quick decisions, move the ball quickly, and it failed. Because like what they did Wednesday was dribble, hold the ball, dribble.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this isn't going to work no matter who's out there. And again, I don't think Julius is like just from what he does in every other game. I generally now when they do it, I think he's more of like his failure is more of a byproduct than like the cause of why they're doing it. I'm not saying like that him struggling. I'm saying like when you watch Julius having the ball at the end, 7 seconds left on the shot clock and having to go try to do something. And it's terrible. It's like, I don't think that was Julius's decision, Julius's choice. I'm like, here's exactly where I wanted to be come this possession. It's just like, okay, I guess I have to try to do something here because there's nothing else is on the table. So I'd have to see them. I totally agree with you. And I think that is possible that he just will never be consistently good against the Thunder. And that is a problem when you're trying to reach the top of the mountain. I'd be more interested to see more games this year, especially if they can find more consistent offensive rhythm like they had last night. Make that more of a staple. Can you do that with Rudy or not? I don't know. But whatever. And be playing really well offensively against some decent competition heading into a game like that and see where it goes. That's what would, to me, be like a real litmus test.
It would be wildly encouraging for me to see an awesome Julius Randle game against the Thunder during this regular season, because I think there would be a ton of like valuable nuggets that you would take from that game and be able to carry forward into it would shift the ceiling of this Timberwolves team for me, massively.
It is like, hang on, let me pull it up quick. Like I do remember like it wasn't all great in the West Finals for sure. There were some real stinkers but even too many turnovers, but like he had a game where he scored 28 and 8 on 9 of 13 shooting in game one. And obviously he had 5 turnovers and that's too many. But then, 9 of 15 one game, 8 of 14 one game. Like, so it's not like it's always been like, oh my God, this is hideous. Yeah. It's just not the type of basketball where he clearly like has the offense, everything on a string. And it's like, oh, he is commanding it and generating for himself and others. Like those games are like the ones that I just mentioned are like, Julius in some tough ISO and he's making them, right. And it's like, and that's the same thing with Dane. It's like, this is not good offense. And Dante will be like, sometimes we got to we have 2 ways we can play, like movement and the isolation. It's like the isolation is not sustainable. It's just not. How can you generate the most easy offense where the ball is moving and guys are creating opportunities? And like, can they do that with Julius and Ant out on the court together? And I think that's a pretty big part of the equation against a team like the Thunder. TBD.
And TBD in that it's something that they can learn and grow in over the course of the season so as to be more prepared for that for the next time they play Oklahoma City in the regular season and when they play them in the postseason, or anybody else who's going to go through their scout of the Timberwolves before the playoff series against them and go, all right, this is what we want to do to slow down Anthony Edwards.
We don't cover the roll man.
It's like... Yeah, they're going to have that list, and then they're going to have a Julius list too, and a lot of that is going to, come from where they've seen him fail, the scouts against Oklahoma City. So it's December 1st. Yeah, there's a lot of time to figure out.
Sorry, one more thing I have to, because it was like part of that great basketball last night in that stretch was a Conley 3, and it came from and this is kind of a thing where you could blame Julius because he got doubled in the corner. And it was going to be a turnover, no question. And it would have been like, what's Julius doing here? Everybody was standing still outside of the 3-point line, not making themselves available at all. He was going to turn the ball over. Like he was just doubled and in the corner, and it was in hell. And Dante finally looks around, points at Nas, and then finally himself cuts to the block closest to Julius, makes himself available. Dante catches the ball, swings to Nas, swings to Conley, open three. It went from a turnover to a wide open three because somebody thought, I should help my teammate who's in trouble here. I should cut to a spot to make him available. And it literally went from an awful possession to an awesome possession because somebody thought to make an extra effort and somebody thought the game out of, he's in help. Where is the best spot to get to? And that, like, I think that matters against the Thunder and everybody else. How can I help out the person who has the ball? You know, and if the person is looking for help and looking for those available options, and those guys are making themselves available, basketball is easier against any opponent. But I just think like examples like that are like, hey, when you're against the Thunder or whoever, and you're not racing to help, we talk all the time. This team doesn't even want to screen in the backcourt when somebody's getting pressured. You need more guys who are thinking about these things and actually using the 5 men on the court to create an advantage versus standing and watching.
Because Ant and Julius both need that.
Right.
They need that. And it's a failure on the others for not doing it. And it honestly shouldn't even be like a triumph that Dante did do that. Like, but it's a signal of like, if they keep doing this stuff will more and more become second nature. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
This is fun. You guys can read Jace in the Pioneer Press. That's what I did this morning to refresh myself on what happened in that Thunder and Boston and San Antonio game. And yeah, you can hear him pretty much every Monday on this show. We kind of got a routine going. Appreciate you coming on and doing it. And for listeners, I am heading to New Orleans. So the next two games we're going to do after the game right away with Chris Hine. He'll be out there as well. So that'll kind of be the rhythm for this week is immediate post-game shows. And I think we'll mix in a Kyle and Brit pod at some time as well. But until then, he's Jace. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hard so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever